I gotta say this to Creative Assembly, because I know developers do watch some videos. Maybe they'll watch this one, I don't know. It would be nice if you gave us a heads up, at least as content creators, that something is coming out. It doesn't have to be any specifics, but it would be nice to at least know a couple of days in advance when you're going to do something like this. Because, yeah, we got to plan things ahead with respect to this. And, well, especially over the weekend, it's summer, people might be going on vacation. It certainly ruined my vacation plans. Anyway, on the subject of 5.2 minus Creative Assembly, just dropping patches like this. I mean, they said there was going to be over the next couple of weeks. It was a lot faster than I would have expected late August. So what are they adding? Well, they're adding the Deeps campaign feature. Already talked about that in its own video about playing tall. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously, once we all get our hands on the patch, but we can see all the structures over there that are available. Then we get Chaos Cults available. Unusual locations in the campaign that are going to be available in certain places. So you get Helmgard having an unusual location over there. That does look like a Chaos Cult over there to me. In terms of the Cafe and Caravan update, so Cafe can now dispatch multiple caravans. As the Lord of Shangyang, Xiaoming the Iron Dragon may dispatch 2 caravans from the start of the campaign, and a newly added technology available to all Cafe factions can add another caravan slot, which does make them match the Chaos Dwarf caravan system. And there's also caravans that will gain a unit depending on which locations they complete the journey at, which would give you things like Akshinas, unique items, all that. Then there's new destinations, Nuln, Barak Var, and Juru for Bretonnia. I think I pronounced that completely wrong, but okay. As well as the small UX improvement. Bug fixes have been implemented. You can now see the amount of cargo the caravan is carrying, as well as the maximum available when an event appears that could add the caravan's cargo. Okay, that's very nice. And then there's also tooltips update, making it functionally similar to the landmark tooltip added previously. So this is going to be great because it will give you an idea of exactly what you're going to get for various resources on the campaign. I'd say the most important thing is what lies ahead. Campaign AI changes. So what they are doing here, based on all that I'm reading, is that they're improving AI recruitment system so that AI will actually recruit better units, more units of higher quality. And they're not just doing it in terms of like increasing the AI's capability of recruiting units, but no, they're changing the way the AI builds its settlement so that it actually has structures available that will allow them to recruit those units in the first place. One important thing, they've increased the construction priority on main major settlements to accelerate how quickly the campaign AI can unlock higher tier units. Okay, that's pretty useful. We have increased construction's priority on special resource buildings, gold mine, compared to standard income buildings. And the construction priorities balance pass on the 2 most problematic factions, Tomb Kings and Lizardmen. So you can see over here the difference in terms of like what the AI would prioritize in terms of their recruitment, but now you can really see a difference over here between the units. So more SARS, especially less pterodons over there. So yeah, less pterodons, more dinos, Croxigars, and so on and so forth. So very useful in that respect. And hopefully the Lizardman AI, with all these changes, is going to recruit far less skinks, especially basic skinks, and will recruit units that are actually worth doing so. Based on your feedback, we have increased the difficulty buffs applied to the AI by approximately 20% in accordance with their faction potential. Interesting. So I guess we'll see how that works out. Maybe experience on it. I do feel when it comes to AI difficulty, they do really need to consider like scalability of difficulty in a campaign, because this is just gonna make the early game harder, but it's not gonna change anything for late game. So it's just gonna push people towards using cheesy strategies or more early on as opposed to later on. So that's another thing. They talk about how they achieved the AI recruiting higher tier units. So they've changed unit recruitment, AI construction. So, for example, by turn 40, Altorfo is still averaging only tier 2. This refers to the overall AI system acting slowly and upgrading primary settlements, which significantly hampers its ability to advance their techno level. So they've increased the priority on each tier of the major settlement building for every faction in the game. So Altor, for instance, other places as well. This is going to make the Empire a lot more challenging to deal with, because the Empire does have a nice toolbox, especially for Realms of Decay, but Rarely do they have full access to it. This is going to be interesting. We'll see how that plays out. We identified inefficient AI planning for economy buildings, specifically regarding special resources, and they've increased special resources construction priority. Okay. And then they talk specifically about the Lizardmen and Tomb Kings, about, like, you know, them recruiting dino units and all that kind of, all those kind of things. Construction priority when its king chain is present has been decreased. Okay. Very well over there. Cult exotic chain. So they do talk about, like, how the AI works and how the AI is recruiting. And then they change things with the Tomb King. So they're going to recruit, higher tier units, and they have their construction priority for growth buildings removed. Okay, fair enough, perfectly fair enough. And they're also removing the priority for AI to get economic buildings on higher tier settlements, which makes sense because that's what you do as a player. You focus you get the economy from minor settlements, you get recruitment from from provincial capitals. Higher difficulties updates, so to allow higher difficulty modes to achieve their intended difficulty calibration and give a slight boost to the across all difficulty levels. So increase by 20% difficulty buffs applied to the AI based on infraction potential. So XP gains, construction costs, recruitment costs, upkeep, growth, and replenishment. The AI is pretty crazy in terms of all of these. I've played with mods that go even further. It can help, but it's a bit of a band-aid. It doesn't necessarily work. The most important thing, though, I would say, is that they add the global recruitment duration reduction. So on Legendary, it's going to be -2 global recruitment duration. You know how the Skaven AI factions are a freaking nightmare because they recruit massive swarms of units? Well, they're going to recruit even bigger swarms of units right now, which is going to be pretty crazy. But you can still deal with them. Surprisingly, the Orcs and Goblins, which are going to be part of the next DLC, are going to get some units for free. So Goblins now get swords and shields. Okay, I guess they decided that, you know what, people are not going to buy DLC for low tier units. Like, that's an obvious thing, right? So they decided, okay, let's just put lower tier units that people only use early on in a campaign for free and give the interesting stuff as part of the paid DLC. I'm not sure how useful these guys are going to be. Maybe the only thing that they will actually be useful for will be to soak up range fire. That's really it. You can't expect these guys to do well in melee. But then, interestingly enough, you get Orc boys with spears. One of the issues that Greenskins do have in their campaign is the lack of an anti-cav unit. Which, yes, I mean, you have Goblin Spearmen, but they're really worthless. Your cavalry is not good enough. Black Orcs and Big Guns deal with it, but they're not dedicated anti-cav units. So now you have dedicated units, lower tier to be sure, with all the limitations that come with that, but still at least an option that can keep the enemy pinned down. And that's kind of all you need. Like, you pin them down, and then you get, your archers, you get your Black Orcs and Big Guns to deal with the units. And then they're also removing tree acne, as someone infamously dubbed it. Yeah, this is wonderful. Because, like, honestly, one of the things I would say about, like, the problem with trees, right? You'd set up an artillery line, and then it's like they just move for a tree line, go invisible, and your units would stop firing. This is, by the way, a problem. Like, overall, the line of sight system is great, but I feel like range units should still be able to shoot, even if they lose line of sight for, like, a split second, which, by the way, is a problem right now. So yeah, they do go over the various changes that they're making over here. They're not updating all the maps, but they are updating a good amount of them. And they're going to do it. They're going to keep updating them through various patches. New shadows change, background revealed, various bug fixes over here with respect to this, and that would be about it. How do I feel about 5.2? Honestly, it's a pretty big deal. Like, the reason I'd say it's a big deal, some of the things, or a lot of the things that we're seeing in this patch, we would have only seen as part of a major DLC update. You know, like 5.0, 4.0, 6.0, which is upcoming. So the fact that they're releasing something that isn't quite as big as that, but is still a very substantial patch, is a really good step forward from my perspective of Creative Assembly. There's not necessarily a huge amount of changes, particularly like if you're looking at bullet points, yeah, improve the AI and all that. But what they're doing is significant. We'll see how this all plays out. I think I'm going to play a campaign after 5.2 comes out and really test what the AI is recruiting, how well they're doing. But this is a really good thing. And yes, they are warning about mods. Now, it depends on the mods you're using, but this is overall a really, really interesting update that they've put together. I would have personally done some different things. Like, I would have loved for them to focus on Kislev, for instance, as opposed to, you know, the dwarves, which, yeah, I get it. People complain about it, but I'll be honest on that. There's a tendency in a lot of strategy games, as someone who's played them since I was 7 years old, played them on competitive level, that there's a tendency among the wider player base to play too safe. Not turtling, but very safe. And I think, like, it's, generally speaking, better players or more experienced players, one of the things you realize once you get to a higher level is, like, you can't play it safe. Like, in any game, you gotta take risks. If you don't take risks, you're not gonna win. Now, don't get me wrong, on a higher level, people lose a lot of games. You know, all the pro players in every strategy game, every RTS, every game, they lose a lot. But if you're not willing to lose, you're not willing to learn. That's just the thing. So if you're not willing to risk your armies by sending them far afield, you're not going to learn to deal with various situations. That is my perspective on that. But maybe, you know, it would have been interesting to have, like, an underway battle system or in general, because, like, that's one of the things that's really missing with, like, Carrick 8 Peaks, for instance. Because, like, the Carrick 8 Peaks, they're just fighting for one city, but it's a massive place, so I think that would have been interesting to have. Yes, Old World has a way around that and does make it work, but limitations of the system. Regardless, this is great, this is good, and interestingly enough, there was a survey that came out from Sega asking about Pharaoh Dynasty. So it does feel like, at the moment, CA is kind of at the point where they're realizing that, oh, if we do X, people are going to be happy with us. It would have been nice if you had realized that before SOC, before Hyenas. I'm sure a lot of people that got laid off would have appreciated that, CA. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Christine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more, because tomorrow is patch day, and we'll see what it really, really brings and how all of this actually plays out.